I never imagined my life could change so drastically. Emily and I had what many would call the perfect suburban life. Our home was always filled with laughter, our daughter Lily was thriving, and we had a solid marriage, or so I thought. It all began to unravel one summer evening. I was in the living room, catching up on the news, when I noticed Emily glancing out the kitchen window more frequently than usual. Her eyes were fixed on the community garden across the street. At first, I dismissed it as nothing more than a passing interest, but as days turned into weeks, her behavior became more conspicuous. One evening, after Emily had gone to the garden for what felt like the 100th time, I decided to follow her. I stayed a safe distance behind, not wanting to be seen. There, among the flower beds, I saw her talking to Daniel, our new neighbor. He was a good-looking man, with a certain charm that set him apart. They seemed to be deep in conversation, their body language more intimate than friendly. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Emily started spending more time at the garden, her absences growing longer. She seemed distant, preoccupied, even when she was at home. I decided to confront her one evening. "Emily, where have you been?" I asked as she walked through the door. "Just at the garden," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. I studied her, noticing the flush on her cheeks, the way she avoided my gaze. "Dinner's ready. Let's eat," I said, deciding to let it go for now. But my mind was already racing, filled with doubt and suspicion. The more I watched, the clearer it became. Emily and Daniel were not just friends. I saw the stolen glances, the subtle touches. Each encounter between them seemed to grow bolder, more charged with an unspoken tension. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, knowing the outcome but powerless to stop it. One evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I followed Emily to the garden, staying hidden among the trees. My heart pounded as I watched her and Daniel move closer, their whispers growing softer, more intimate. Daniel's hand brushed against hers, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned in, her lips parting slightly. My stomach churned as I watched them kiss, a slow, lingering kiss that spoke of a deeper connection. I wanted to storm in, to pull them apart, but I was frozen, rooted to the spot by a mix of anger and despair. When Emily returned home that night, I confronted her again. "Emily, we need to talk." She looked at me, guilt and fear evident in her eyes. "Mark, there's something I need to tell you." She confessed everything. The conversations, the growing attraction, the stolen kisses. My heart shattered with each word, the betrayal cutting deep. But as I listened, I realized that this wasn't just about Daniel. It was about us, about the cracks in our marriage that had gone unnoticed for too long. "Emily, do you love him?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "No, Mark, I love you. I love our family. I made a mistake, but I don't want to lose what we have." We decided to go to counseling, to confront the issues that had driven us apart. It wasn't easy. The road to healing was long and painful, filled with moments of doubt and anger, but we were determined to make it work. As weeks turned into months, Emily and I began to rebuild our marriage. The trust that had been shattered was slowly mended, piece by piece. We learned to communicate better, to address our problems head-on instead of letting them fester. Emily stopped going to the garden, and our interactions with Daniel became polite but distant. The spark between them might have once burned bright, but it was now nothing more than a ghost of a memory, a reminder of what could have been. Just as things seemed to be improving, a new complication arose. One day, as I was leaving work, I spotted Daniel in a heated argument with a woman I didn't recognize. Their voices were raised, and Daniel's face was contorted with anger. I couldn't help but overhear snippets of their conversation. "You can't just show up here and expect everything to be okay," Daniel hissed. The woman, tears in her eyes, retorted, "I'm your wife, Daniel. I have every right to be here." I felt as if the ground had opened up beneath me. Daniel was married. The revelation sent my mind spinning. Had Emily known? Was she aware that she had been involved with a married man? I debated whether to tell Emily about what I had seen. Our relationship was still fragile, and I feared this new information might shatter the progress we had made, but I knew that honesty was crucial if we were to truly rebuild our trust. That evening, I sat Emily down and told her what I had witnessed. Her reaction surprised me. Instead of shock or guilt, her face showed a mix of relief and sadness. "I knew," she confessed softly. "Daniel told me about his wife a few weeks ago. That's when I realized how deep I had gotten into something I never intended. It was the wake-up call I needed to end things with him. I felt a surge of emotions, anger at the deception, relief that Emily had already distanced herself, and a renewed determination to make our marriage work. However, our challenges were far from over. A few days later, Daniel's wife, Sarah, showed up at our doorstep. She was distraught, her eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said, her voice quivering. "But I need to know. Were you aware that my husband was having an affair with your wife?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. I glanced at Emily, who had gone pale. In that moment, I made a decision that would alter the course of our lives. "No," I lied, meeting Sarah's gaze steadily. "We had no idea. I'm so sorry for what you're going through." Emily's eyes widened in surprise, but she remained silent. Sarah nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Thank you for your honesty. I needed to know." After Sarah left, Emily turned to me, confusion evident in her expression. "Why did you lie?" I took a deep breath. "Because it's not our story to tell. Whatever happened between you and Daniel is in the past. We're trying to move forward, and I don't want to be dragged into their marital issues." Emily nodded slowly, gratitude replacing the confusion in her eyes. "Thank you, Mark. I don't deserve your protection." "We're in this together," I replied, taking her hand. "We've made mistakes, but we're working through them. That's what matters." Little did we know, our decision that day would have far-reaching consequences. A few weeks later, we received a call from the police. Daniel had gone missing, and we were among the last people known to have had contact with him. The investigation threw our quiet suburban life into chaos. Detectives questioned us repeatedly, probing into the nature of Emily's relationship with Daniel. We stuck to our story. We were just neighbors, nothing more. As the days passed, rumors began to swirl in the neighborhood. Some speculated that Daniel had run away with a lover. Others whispered darker theories that he had met with foul play, possibly at the hands of a jealous spouse. The stress of the investigation took its toll on our fragile reconciliation. Emily withdrew into herself, plagued by guilt and fear. I found myself questioning everything. Had I done the right thing by lying to Sarah? Was I protecting Emily or enabling a potential cover-up? Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, everything changed again. The police found Daniel's car abandoned near a hiking trail just outside of town. Inside, they discovered a note, a confession of sorts. Daniel wrote of his unhappy marriage, of falling in love with Emily, and of his inability to choose between the two women in his life. He spoke of the unbearable pressure and his decision to start anew somewhere else. The revelation sent shockwaves through our community. Sarah was devastated, Emily was racked with guilt, and I was left to pick up the pieces of our shattered life. In the midst of the chaos, an unexpected ally emerged. Lily, our daughter, became the glue that held our family together. Her innocence and unconditional love reminded us of what truly mattered. As the media frenzy died down and life began to return to normal, Emily and I faced a crossroads. We could let this experience tear us apart, or we could use it as an opportunity to build something stronger. We chose the latter. We renewed our commitment to therapy, this time with a focus not just on our marriage, but on our individual growth as well. Emily started painting again, channeling her emotions into vibrant canvases that spoke of redemption and hope. I threw myself into volunteering, finding purpose in helping others navigate their own life challenges. Slowly but surely, we began to heal. The community garden, once a place of secrets and whispered confessions, was transformed. We led an initiative to turn it into a healing space, with a section dedicated to missing persons and another to supporting families in crisis. Years passed, and our life settled into a new rhythm. Emily and I grew stronger together, our bond forged anew in the fires of honesty and forgiveness. Lily thrived, unaware of the storm that had passed over our home, but somehow wiser for the experience. Daniel was never found, his disappearance remaining one of the great mysteries of our town. Sometimes, on quiet evenings, I would catch Emily staring at the garden, a faraway look in her eyes. But then she would turn to me, a smile on her face, and I knew that whatever ghosts lingered from the past, our future was ours to shape. Life in our quiet suburban neighborhood continued, forever changed, but not defeated by the events that had unfolded. And as I watched Emily paint, a renewed sense of clarity and purpose in her eyes, I knew we had made the right choice. We had chosen each other, faced our demons, and in doing so, we had found our way back to the life we had always wanted, imperfect, challenging, but ultimately beautiful in its resilience.